Hello everybody, my name is Thomas Steinmauer. I'm the product manager of the Log Manager series and FP TraceManager at Upscene Productions. What I want to show is a quick demonstration on how you can identify your worst performing queries in a Firebird 2.5 database by using the Trace API in our product called FP TraceManager. Let's connect to a server. I've already prepared a trace session. We are basically, for this quick demonstration on showing how to identify the worst performing queries, we are basically interested in just a few trace options here. Pretty much the log statement finish. We want to have an execution plan, and we want to have detailed performance statistics. And we also have to set the time threshold to 0 milliseconds. So now let's start the trace session here. Let's go back to just a client which connects to the database and basically executes a few statements here behind the scenes. So if we are going back to FP TraceManager, we will see that we got a trace of executed statements already, which quite a lot of columns here on the grid. So for the quick demonstration, we are pretty much interested in the execution time, number of reads, and so on. So we go into the visible columns dialog here. I have prepared a trace column definition file. Gonna apply this one here. So what we see here now is that we have a few statements executed here. We will see the select statement here. We see the execution plan. We see detailed performance statistics. So if we go back here, we will see that there have been a few indexed reads on a particular table and so on. So what do we have to do to identify the worst performing queries in respect to the execution time? The execution time information is available here. We pretty much have the possibility to sort the entire grid in descending order. So, and we have to keep selections. So if we go back here and we generate some traffic here, we will see that the selected row still has the focus. So what we see here is that slower statements get inserted on top of the grid. So this is one possibility. Another possibility is to work with the footer band here. We can apply some aggregate function here. So for instance, if we're interested in the slowest, in the highest execution time value, we pretty much apply the max aggregate function. We will see that the maximum was 2 milliseconds. So if we now want to have which statements needed 2 milliseconds to execute, we can right click again and set filter, which pretty much applies the filter, the value of 2 to the regular expression filter here, and the regular expression filter gets applied to the rows. So that's a very, very quick way. Another thing is you possibly have different processes accessing the database. So we have another client here, and we want, for instance, execute something here. We get some traffic, so we have to clear out the regular expression filter, and we will see again that the last statement here has got an execution time of 103 milliseconds. So let's reapply this one here, right click, set filter, and we have again your worst performing query in respect to the execution time again. So if you are interested in what for a particular remote process, we're gonna clear out this again. So we want to set the filter for the current selected remote process's name, and we then want to have the maximum execution time. We are able to reapply the regular expression filter here again. So we see that our database workbench here, the worst performing query took 2 milliseconds, and we also see which one, which SQL statement, which execution plan, and the detailed statistics. This one can be applied to the other client as well for the SQL process. So we say again set filter to the currently selected row, the remote process name, and we reapply the aggregate function here. The maximum execution time was 103 milliseconds, and set the filter again, and here we go. We get again the information here. What we also see here via the Trace API is the number of reads from disk or the file system cache, the number of writes, the number of fetches from the cache, and the number of marks beside this SQL statement and the execution plan. So that's one very quick way to identify your worst performing queries. Another one is to use the event processing module. The event processing module is a very powerful feature which allows you to write custom rules, custom event rules, and I have one prepared which pretty much does the following. If the execution time is larger than 50 milliseconds, the whole grid row should have a background color red. So I'm gonna activate this one here, and I'm gonna reapply the event processing rules. So if I get back to my client here and re-execute the statement here a few times, we will see now that the execution time here for these statements have been larger than 50 milliseconds, and our event rule, our event processing module applies the code behind the event rule, which paints the grid row background color in red. So this is another very powerful feature to identify your worst performing queries. That's pretty much the quick demonstration. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.